Hello and welcome to a Star Citizen Alpha 3.5.1 live state of the game, looking at what works and what doesn't, what we can do in the game, what mechanics are there, how playable is all of it, and how does it compare to previous patches. I'll do a quick too long didn't watch summary here as well. Star Citizen is fun at this stage, but not a sit down and play game yet. There are major problems with the game, and they're still working on some of the core mechanics. 3.5.1 did a lot to address some of the problems with the 3.5 branch, but even now, it requires research to know what you can do in game, how you can do that, especially for new players. It's focused on testing and feedback the game at this stage. There are crashes, bugs, and frustration, and if you want to get involved with that process at this stage, great. If you don't, well, then it's not for you. It is a great tourist destination, though, when a new patch comes out, going around the new areas, seeing what's new. Another into gameplay is being part of an organisation, so you can organise your own things and do your own sort of like game modes or mess around in the verse with a group of people. There's also going to be a subset of people that love the game and love to grind the current loops, of which there are very few at the moment because they're still working on the core mechanics, but there's still some. The game is very pretty and there's lots to be done and lots of fun to be had despite its flaws and holes in current gameplay. The Alpha 3.5.1 was a mini patch meant to address various bugs and quality of life issues with 3.5's branch, which it has at least done after 3.5 broke a few features and had many quality of life problems, broke some of the gameplay loops. Specific with that 3.5.1 patch was a major change. Now any weapon or item changes that you've made to your ship now will persist during that patch cycle anyway, when reclaiming your ship. So if you go out and you buy items and weapons and fit them to your ship with in-game money, then when your ship explodes and you reclaim it, they are still there, which is absolutely fantastic. And there's new shop items as well in the 3.5.1 patch, so that's pretty solid, that's pretty cool. Star Citizen's Persistent Universe looks great, and framerate-wise at the moment, they're pretty damn good. Significantly better by magnitudes on a wider range of hardware compared to 3.0, which had the times of single-digit frames for some, which was absolutely awful performance-wise, but now pretty damn good across a range of machines. We're still locked to 50 players per server at the moment, though. They require further server improvements and optimizations, which are largely coming online this year. We'll see if that actually expands the server cap this year as well. The most major problems for me are currently there still problems with ship combat, aiming fixed weapons, rubber banding and jitter, general game balance. We need server-side object container streaming. There's problems with the new flight model and expanding gameplay area. So auto gimbals as well. If you have gimbaled weapons at the moment, you might as well have auto gimbal mode on, as this aims for you. And fixed weapons are kind of broken. So yeah. Use auto gimbals. You don't need to aim properly. It sort of like aims and fires at ships for you. Well, you have to fire still, and you sort of have to lightly aim. This is obviously going to see work in the future. And once we have fixed weapons working and a lot more balance going on, then fixed weapons and actually taking the time to get better at aiming. And when we have physicalized components so that you're going to be targeting individual systems, fixed weapons might be significantly more useful than auto gimbals, which would sort of like maybe aim in the middle of a ship, but not necessarily be great at finishing ships off. You might want to individually target thrusters or whatever, and firing with fixed weapons or firing manual gimbals would be significantly better for that, because it's not all just about fixed weapons, it's manual gimbals as well. There is a lot to do in Star Citizen now, with mission progression, a reputation system that gives you access to some more missions based on your crime rating or other missions that you've done, leading to bigger payouts and sort of like variants of those missions. There's delivery and move box and item missions, though ships are still sort of bugged with this. Some ships have the cargo boxes falling out, some ships can't carry the cargo. Admittedly, with cargo just falling out of ships, there only appears to be a couple of ships now, but it's annoying nonetheless. Obviously, edge cases are going to be everywhere for lots of different problems. Some of these missions have you moving very small items, though, that you can actually stow on your character, so you don't actually have to have any cargo room, which is good. Most of these missions as well that I'm about to describe, they sort of work. They don't sort of like constantly bug out or explode, or the AI goes like inactive and you can't finish a mission. Most of these missions, for the most part, work now and are completable. There are scramble races, which are sort of like a free-for-all destruction derby type affair, weapons free, shoot people, try and kill them. These are very rarely played by people, though. They require a sort of like group of players to join them, and sometimes there's only 1 or 2, and they get cancelled, and then it's sort of like a waste of time to travel around. But you'll see like a couple of these sort of like areas that they can have them around each of the moons. Basically, these require bigger rewards, tweaking, and larger server player caps maybe to work. There are some simple FPS AI missions as well. Clear out security post Korea, or up bunkers on planets and moons. Missions involving ships, patrolling, combat assist, distress signals, bounty hunting, both PvE and PvP. Assassination, which is the sort of like less lawful version of bounty hunting. Search and investigation missions are there. You go to a wreck, find a black box or particular body to sort of like complete that. Service beacons for distress signals, combat assist, and please pick me up and take me to a location you're in, which are great to see those from players. But NPCs can also send out distress signals now. They sort of like replace the ECN missions they had previously. The major landing zones have mission givers, quite a few of them now across the Stanton system, which give you slight variants of common missions, maybe big rewards, or give a bit more sort of like interesting backstory about the mission. There's a couple of really interesting ones though. The Twitch Pacheco mission, which is new with 3.5. So this is the Storehouse mission from Arc Corp Area 18. It lends you a Cutlass Black, which you need to go pick up, and then you go and attack a bunker, clear out the turrets and NPCs inside, and then you have to find a specific box of narcotics, take it back to just by Area 18. Or there's a counter mission to that, which has you, when someone's taken that mission, have to go there, up to 3 other people, I think, to go and destroy all the boxes in that stash house. So it's a counter mission, but you can sort of like, if you see someone taking that box away, you don't have to stop them if you don't want to. There's the Clovis Neely down satellite mission as well. That has you travel to a satellite on Hurston and try and find a circuit board. And that might actually have a few extra steps to it. So you might have to search other locations or clear out a bunker and then recover it from there, or it could just be there. Other players might be hunting for the board to destroy it as well as a counter mission. That's quite interesting because it has you interacting with the object and actually looking to see if it's the correct sort of like circuit board. There's a Kovlex investigation mission, one of the first missions we had, in fact, and it gives a good look at sort of like chilled PvE exploration of a station while recovering audio logs and text logs. The mission has different endings based on what you recover, but they updated a little while ago the actual Kovlex Gundo hub, that space station there, and when they do lighting changes and fog changes and that sort of stuff, it's a great place to go, and it's because you can really see that there. It's got the shadows, it's got the sort of like the correct ambience, in my opinion, and it sort of like shows off what some of the stuff they're trying to do in the future with missions, and it's always been sort of like, to me, a gold standard for a interesting mission that you could get in the game in the future, because some missions are going to be heavily driven by just text, some by text and audio, and some are going to have lots of interaction with like mission givers and that sort of thing as well. And it's a good in-between mission. Beyond the missions, there are various game loops as well. Cargo hauling is very much a thing, much more viable for larger ships, but you can buy and sell cargo at terminals, even in some of the smaller ships. Prices change based on demand somewhat, and if you're buying and selling lots, that will affect the prices of those commodities. You can scavenge for cargo boxes at points of interest and derelicts. There are also narcotics available to purchase at hidden outposts, although you'll actually find lots of these hidden outposts from naturally during these sort of like outlaw delivery missions, or just by passing them and going, what's that? You'll have players locking down areas with loads of ships sometimes. This is less common in the 3.5 branch, with the extra locations for narcotics, the drug slabs there, taking away from the sort of like jump town hot zone that we previously had, because you had all of this sort of like traffic in a single drug slab, because jump town was the only one, but now there's loads. You'll get some light piracy going on from players still though, although there's not that much for outlaws and players to do, really. There's a few like missions that are outlaw based. There's you can blow someone's ship up, you might get some cargo boxes spawn out, and obviously there's just the general, I kind of want to be a pirate in the full game, so I'm just going to mess around pretending I'm a pirate. Obviously, there just needs to be a bit more. And 3.6, there's an outlaw system that's getting expanded with the law system, and there's going to be the black market and things like that. Lots more reasons to be an outlaw, to be a pirate, and ways of selling your stolen gear, or more interesting ways of dealing with stolen loot and stuff like that. When you're quantum traveling around, you can get interdicted by both security forces and pirates as well at the moment. The mining mechanic works well and is one of the most polished areas of the game in 3.5.1 anyway. Mining is only available with the prospector still, though that ship is actually purchasable in-game in ship stores, which is great. So you can grind up for it and then buy it and then use it in-game. It should be available to rent in the future as well, with other mining ships also available in the future when they add them, the Orion being massive, but we might see some more. Mineable rocks and asteroids are very abundant in 3.5.1 and easy to find. Scanning for them has like loads of markers appear when you're around a moon or an asteroid field, and it appears that minables are passively detected too now. And they seem to have, more commonly at least, more valuable makeup of like materials inside. While mining, the loop is scan for a mineable, approach that and sort of like look at it to scan it a bit further, a particular rock that you want to scan, or asteroid. Then you use your mining laser to break the mineable down. You can adjust the laser power with the mouse wheel. You have to keep it within a particular threshold. There's like a little green zone and this is based on instability and resistance of the mineable. And if you go beyond that, the mineable can explode. And if you go below that, well, you're not going to get any progress to breaking that rock down. But that's much easier now. That's significantly easier than it was previously, and obviously if it does explode, then it sends valuable ore rocking off, or can even damage your ship. Some minables require breaking into smaller chunks, and then you can use your tractor laser to nom up the materials and then go to a location and sell them, or keep on mining or whatever. The mineral makeup of an asteroid is part of that gameplay loop, having you work out if it's worth your time to mine. Obviously, you also need to look at the resistance and the sort of like instability of the rock to work out, is it too dangerous to mine? At the moment, as there are so many potential rocks and there aren't easy ways to orientate yourself at a glance, or ways to mark rocks that you've previously scanned, you can get sort of like lost in mineable areas and go back to the same rock like 8 or 9 times in like a dense field. Atmospheric hover is coming in 3.6 as well, which should change the feel of mining when on moons, and might have you landing more often to conserve fuel, or because you're bobbing around too much or whatever. Some interesting mechanics, sort of scanning's pretty slick now. Tab to go into scan mode and then scan for signals, which will appear as blocks on your HUD in an area where there's something that's producing a signal, and as you get closer, you then passively detect that signal, so you will actually see it properly. What is this? It could be a ship, a probe, a mineable. Probably will get a lot of use in the future, the scanning mechanics. Not so much use for now, but it's obviously working and it's there, and it will be really useful for when we have better stealth mechanics, when we have reasons to stealth up on people, when we're trying to track down certain things, when we're looking for points of interest, or to engage certain groups of enemies or whatever. VoIP and VoIP, so face over IP and voice over IP. VoIP is more regularly employed locally for videos, so I use it, but I don't transmit it ever. It sort of works if you're in a group or on comms calls when enabled. It takes a bit of faff around. VoIP works, but it's fiddly to get working again, and is used by very, very few people at the moment who would prefer to use Discord or whatever. It's a cool set of features that hopefully will get adopted by players much more when the game is more mainstream, or there are more reasons to use it, or I know a lot of people want it sort of like on by default, which I don't want it on by default. I think privacy, you can't really have it on by default, but I do want it to be more widely adopted, and for it to be just work when it's turned on. In regard to exploration and gameplay, area Star Citizen is locked to 1 star system currently, Stanton, and that's not going to expand out any further until we at least have static server meshing completed. However, the current area is absolutely massive and contains some planets. Hurston, that has various biomes and water, Savannah with woodlands, acid sort of biomes, trash biomes, quarried biomes, and a giant city, Lorville. In fact, that is my recommended place to always visit. It is absolutely fantastic there. It is massive. There are cool things. There are seas. It's a fantastic looking biome, and you can see like the grassier woodland areas. Oh, awesome planet. ArcCorp is the latest addition gameplay area-wise in 3.5 as branch. It's a massive city that covers the entire surface of a planet. Area 18 is the major landing zone there, and sort of like, you can see it's like a much more commercial looking district with taller buildings and lots more branding around. In fact, again, specific to the 3.5.1 patch, they've improved lighting there, branding, ads around the planet, and added new buildings and assets like the donut building. They're going to keep on improving and changing their procedural tech when when it comes to this sort of stuff and improving and adding assets, doing lighting passes, that sort of stuff. Crusader is there, but it's a placeholder. You can't actually visit it. The area around it's working, so that's like Port and the moons there. It is planned to have its landing zone Origin in Alpha 3.9 Q1 of 2020, but that could change. Each of these planets and locations has various moons that each have their own biomes and are mostly explorable. And what I mean by that is pretty much everything is fully explorable except for the city of Lorville and the whole of ArcCorp. Basically, they have a barrier that is close to the surface, preventing you from landing in the middle of a city or just anywhere you want. The autopilot sort of pulls you away now rather than like insta-kills you or anything. Though at ArcCorp, there are buildings to land on around sort of like above that, and Lorville isn't covering the whole planet, it's just a certain section, and you can leave Lorville via gates, and there's transit systems in ArcCorp and Lorville, which are both awesome and very different. There's a shuttle bus on ArcCorp around Area 18, and at Lorville there is like a train system. Also, on each of the astral bodies, there are missions, outposts, some where you can spawn ground vehicles. There's drugs labs and points of interest like lakes and seas. Ground vehicles work pretty well at the moment. I would like to see the hover bikes get a few more tweaks, maybe hover and VTOL updates in 3.6 will take a look at that as well, but ground gameplay works great, vehicles work great. Still more improvements that could be done there for sure, though. There's an asteroid belt around Crusader's moon, Yella, and a major landing zone, Grimhex there, nestled into one of the larger asteroids for more outlaw gameplay and the place that you can sell all your narcotics. There's a planetoid Delamar with the landing zone Levski on, which has a ship shop, and there's Port Olisar, where you first spawn in the game, which is more of a legacy asset now and should be replaced by one of the large space stations in the future. The small space station rest stops are dotted around the system as well, and they're in good points, Lagrange points in fact, so that they're placed in sensible locations when you're traveling between planets and zones and that sort of stuff, well, because they will eventually have planets orbiting the sun, so they will all be in different locations as you're quantum traveling. They'll be moving, basically, so they need sort of like these rest stops in sensible places. And all these landing zones have shops, some of which are unique and have unique stock, so you can buy FPS weapons, armor, civilian clothing, equipment, ship weapons, items, as well as whole ships, but you need to move around the verse to discover exactly what to buy and where. ArcCorp, for example, in the ArcCorp Tower, the IO Tower there is Center Mass, which has a huge range of ship weapons, which I recommend you go to, especially now that ship changes basically persist. There's obviously the customization system, which is now available on the website for the 300 series of ships and the rest of the 300 series of variants that are available. The 300 series are pretty cool. That ship manufacturer stuff on the website, yeah, you can change your skins for those 300 series of ships. It needs to come out to more ships. It needs to be in-game, in my opinion, to be widely adopted. But now we do have, I suppose, reasons to make Alpha UBC in the game, because you're going to be wanting to purchase items for your ship in-game and putting them on there. They persist. Obviously, they do get wiped every major patch at the moment anyway, so be aware of that. Alpha UBC and Alpha UBC purchases, they will get wiped every 3 months or so at least. But it gives you a way to potentially make more money. You get these new items, and then you can do harder and harder missions, or missions more easily, or get better quantum travel, quantum drives, and then travel faster, that sort of stuff, or buy a new ship or whatever. Some more minor or mission-based explorable stations exist as well. There's Korea, Security Post Korea, where you can lower your criminal rating by interacting with a computer there. You'll get a criminal rating from doing some missions or from attacking people that you shouldn't attack or bumping into them or whatever. But if you just get just one level of criminal rating, you're sort of okay. It's only when you get to a certain point. Beyond that, security will start to attack you in certain areas. Defense turrets and NPCs on the ground. Bounties will be generated for you as well, so players and NPCs can attack you and even interdict you, so bear that in mind. And if you are like a max level outlaw and in certain areas, lots and lots and lots of ships will progressively come for you, even hammerheads eventually. There is the Gundo Kovalex hub, and focused on with one of the investigation missions as well, which is as I said earlier, some way that you should really check out. There's comma-rays as well, which can be turned on and off as part of missions and give reasonably good payouts sometimes. If you turn one off as part of a mission, you will get like a level 4 criminal rating, which is pretty strong for if you want to power up in the criminal rating sort of scheme of things. One of the things with getting a criminal rating is that you have to be in an area that has comma-ray coverage and doing a crime to be detected to get a criminal rating, if you see what I mean. So if you turn off the comma-rays, then they don't have coverage in that area. You can see that at the top right of your screen, but it's a cool little mechanic. Obviously, it's going to get a lot more flesh on its bones, pretty basic at the moment, but that's how it is. There are some more hidden zones and areas and points of interest. Benny Henge, which you sort of can track down if you're clever, or if you just know where it is. Javelin Wreck, which is cool, which you would have to know where it is really. It's very hard to just randomly stumble upon. There's various narcotics labs as well, which previously we only had Jumptown, but now there's loads of sort of like locations that sell narcotics, of which Grimhex buys most of them. However, this isn't particularly profitable anymore, sort of like those narcotics cargo runs. They tweaked the amount of money that you can make on them so that they're not great, and you're likely to see less players there because there are more areas around. It's a step backwards in the short-term sort of like gameplay loop that I enjoyed that was Jumptown. In my opinion, I really liked Jumptown. I really liked the sort of like, I could go onto a server and go to Jumptown and there would be people there to interact with. There might be pirates, there might be an orc locking that down, there might be a queue for Jumptown. I just quite liked that for some reason. I think it was much more, you could see the Persistent Universe as a multiplayer game rather than just people in the sort of like Persistent Universe that you might also be playing with them. Do you see a sort of like differentiation there? This is all because they are getting ready for 3.6 black market economy, I suppose, and the law system, which should improve this by having more risk and reward for trying to trade in narcotics and stolen goods, but also you might get chased by people, or they might get confiscated, or your ship might get blown up or whatever, by NPCs as well, much more regularly now. 3.5.1 struggles to have much to do for outlaw players beyond a couple of missions and counter missions. There's just not a huge amount of reason for players to interact with each other that aren't in the same group. There's no real conflict there. I mean, they did try to do it in some of the missions, and if you had like only a limited time to play and see a couple of things in Star Citizen or each patch, then I suggest at the moment that you visit ArcCorp and Lawville on Hurston, so Area 18 on ArcCorp, Lawville on Hurston, and do the Covlex investigation mission, the down satellite mission on Hurston, and the Twitch storehouse mission on ArcCorp, or starting on ArcCorp. That gives you a good feel for what they're trying to do with that mission system in the future. The missions at the moment aren't properly dynamic, and they don't have much in the way of modularity or variance. That's something that is coming later, but these are good examples of what they want to do with missions. Quantum travel times have massive ranges as well at the moment, as the distance between some of the areas and planets is huge. Crusader, Port Olisar by Crusader to ArcCorp is one of the longest quantum jumps that you could do at the moment, and ranges from 5 to 17 minutes based on the size and type of your quantum drive that you have equipped. And that's assuming you don't get quantum interdicted out, or your systems don't overheat, because heating's in there as well. Heating's been a bit buggy, and you can manage heat by turning the power down on your MFDs. There are reasons to manage your systems, but not that many reasons. It's not essential at the moment, sort of management of your systems. But smaller ships do take a huge amount of time to travel if they want to constantly move around the system. They're not really intended for that purpose, though. This isn't too much of an issue for me, at least at the moment, as you can take missions and stay around a single planet and its moons, and then just travel longer distances if you have to, so like more rarely, or get a lift using the service beacon system. So you can say, I want a lift from here to here, and say in the chat, I want a caterpillar to take me, please caterpillar, because a caterpillar has got a much larger quantum drive and it will get you where you want to go much faster. And then you can just spawn your ship at the landing zone that you've been taken to. In the future, I expect to see Krakens, Genesis Starliners, and civilian carrier services to allow you or you and your ships to move across one section of the sort of like system to another much more quickly, but for a fee. So how playable is Alpha 3.5 beyond that? It's very playable. However, there are still occasional crashes, and some bugs or lack of polish in areas cause issue. The new flight model, combat, and AI all need a lot of work. It's very playable, but there are problems. The new flight model is surprisingly good in general, though. It does need tweaking, but it's got good, solid potential, and there is a lot to do when it comes to gameplay on the ground, or if you're flying around in your ship. The major frustrations for me at the moment are rubber banding and jittering, most notably with players and NPC ships. This is partly based on server load and servers being pushed beyond really what they can handle with the current gameplay area. Obviously, fixed weapons being broken as well is really, really annoying, and they do need to solve these problems. I can have hours of fun without much of an issue in 3.5.1 sometimes, but other times, during more peak hours when the server's more full, it's not great. You can get a lot more jitter, you can get a lot more rubber banding, you can get a lot more problems. The AI is working sometimes, but not other times. So you have FPS AI and ship AI. They don't really prove a challenge any other time. They can stop firing, stop responding properly. They're just a bit dumb. I mean, missions sort of like work now, but the AI and that sort of stuff just make it pretty weak challenge-wise. For a tourist destination as a game, Star Citizen is great. If you want to come and check out the latest major patch for a couple of weeks, and then you get to see some awesome sights and play some cool missions, the lack of variance, the lack of meaningful progression, the major reset every 3 months, and bugs can make it frustrating beyond that, though. The procedural generation is improving, but ArcCorp has a lot of meaningless silly space around it at the moment, beyond just where like Area 18 is and its proximate areas. It looks great, but it has no gameplay value yet. I suppose not everything needs to have gameplay value yet. A lot of it is sort of like building the tech so that it can have more gameplay or more immersion or whatever. So it is what it is. More areas and things to do in the future will be coming online. Some of the buildings will have interiors and be used for missions, for example. And Star Citizen, that's where we are with it. It's still evolving. It's an alpha. They add lots of major new bits and bobs to it every 3 months or so. However, Star Citizen is best enjoyed, in my opinion, with others. If you are in an active org, then you could easily have hundreds of hours of fun in Star Citizen, even now. It's sort of like got a forced sandbox nature beyond a certain point. And the game works really well with the creative community, the community that it's got, and players looking to organise things and do events. When there is more flesh on its bones, long-term solo play will be much more viable, in my opinion. But there's no tutorials now, it takes research, there's a lot of faff to get into Star Citizen if you're new. But the project is so unique and the game has so much promise. Playing it now and seeing that promise sort of like start to take hold and the sort of like skeleton of the game come together is a fantastic, unique experience for sure. But on the sort of flip side of that is that the other night when I was trying to play, I was having problems getting into a party and inviting people. So that sort of stuff needs to be fixed, and problems just sort of like occur. It's an alpha, it's the nature of it. I think that's one of the major things, actually, that Star Citizen needs in the shorter term. Better multi-crew, group gameplay, mission sharing, harder AI, things to do in a group, things that get players interacting with each other, whether that's counter missions, but some sort of like, Jumptown was great for that. Jumptown had people seeing each other and worrying about what those interactions are going to be like. Hopefully we'll start to see more of this from 3.6, just with player interaction, but then 3.7 onwards with potentially better multi-crew and mission sharing stuff. Star Citizen is very much still in its alpha phase, where testing, feedback, bug hunting, and evolution of its gameplay are at its core. It's certainly not for the mainstream at this stage, nor for people that get easily frustrated. And there are many edge case bugs as well, some players getting 100% CPU usage or constant crashes, for example, or not being able to spawn their ships properly. Some trolling exists as well, with players being able to ram into sort of players' ships repeatedly, sort of like annoying them, because they have to then reclaim their ship, which can take a couple of minutes. But ways of dealing with this in game should be coming in the future. And I say a couple of minutes, that's if you pay the sort of like extra money to have your ship done quickly, sort of like respawn quickly. It can take like 15 minutes or longer even. So ways of dealing with players ramming your ships, probably GTA 5 style would be great, where you go, you've damaged my ship, you've rammed it on the pad, so you pay for it, and maybe you get it back instantly, or something like that. Do you see what I mean? There's got to be ways around that, or some mechanics that need to put in. Alpha 3.6 will address some of the issues with 3.5.1 and the current branch. There's always going to be crashes in an alpha, but 3.5 had broken and changed some of the previous gameplay that was pretty solid. So it's sort of like 2 steps backwards for what might be a bigger leap forward for 3.6, admittedly. They've got to get stuff ready and get stuff implemented and then push forward with the next patch. And there are lots and lots of systems which they are building on, and physicalized components is probably a great example of this. And this is what some of the customization systems, subcomponents, repair, items 2.0's all sort of like been working towards. It's going to have physicalized items for our power plants and all that sort of stuff in our ships, which if they're removed, that item's been removed. It's no longer part of the circuit, and those items can be individually destroyed, and ships won't have giant health pools anymore. They will have individual components which can all be individually destroyed. There'll be a piercing system to go through hulls, so the hull's important, the armor's important. Items nearby each other can obviously be hit by the same sort of bullet that goes through or whatever. There's a lot coming along with that, and that relies on lots of other stuff that they've been building for a while, and some of the sort of mechanics in at the moment are effectively placeholder. 3.6 is focusing much more on improvements and ships and additions and evolution of mechanics. I've got the couple of big things, I suppose, really with that are the lore system and the black market, which I'm really looking forward to. But I have talked far too much for this video. This is a ridiculously long video. What do you think about what we discussed? Are you enjoying 3.5.1, or are you waiting for 3.6 before you play again? Or are you waiting even longer for Star Citizen to be in a much more playable state? Do you think Alpha 3.6 might see delays? Whatever your opinions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For June, we have an Origin 890 Jump, the massive luxury ship that should also be flyable with Alpha 3.6 at the end of the month. That is a huge sort of like capital luxury ship. It's been donated by Odyssey Interstellar, a friendly industrial expansionist organization in Star Citizen that focus on mining, trading, industry, exploration, research, and infrastructure. In short, commerce is their goal. They run regular weekly events in-game now. Please check them out if you are looking for an org to join. Links down below. There are a couple of services I shield for as well that you might find useful. If you're looking for a VPN, then check out NordVPN. I use it for security, privacy, and more. It has massive advantages over free VPNs. And if you use the code BoredGamer, you get up to 75% off your subscription. Boom! Also, there is Shadow Cloud Gaming. This is an alternative to having your own or upgrading your gaming rig on PC. It leverages the power of the internet and your own Shadow server that emulates a high-spec Windows 10 PC, so you can play up to 144Hz 4K anywhere with an old PC, laptop, smartphone, or even tablet. Freedom to play anywhere. The internet is good enough anyway, and it works really well with Star Citizen and all the games that I play, and is constantly updated and even improved with new hardware. Again, use the code BoredGamer for discount. Links below to all of that jazz. Thank you to all that support the channel through Patreon, the YouTube join button, donations, subscribe star, as well as anyone that just generally subscribes, likes, comments, and shares my content. Dings that bell, ding ding. If you feel so inclined, you can find links to all of that down below. A special thank you though to my VIP producers this month: Dalamars, Catastrus, Raz, Gear Khan, General Aventador, Robert Johnson, and Andy Green, who have given well beyond the norm in support for the channel. I know a load of other people have, but I can't name them all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.